Right, well, despite all the challenges faced by pupils, Basic Education Minister, that's Angie Motshekga, says it's all systems go as matric pupils prepare to write their English exams tomorrow. And this marks the first finals to be written since lockdown was lifted. Now, eNCA reporter Heidi Giokos is following these developments for us. And let's, of course, come to her and talk about particularly the challenges faced as opposed by pupils. Heidi, good to have you and good afternoon. I mean, the challenges, surely they are mounting, faced by pupils. We spoke of lockdown and COVID, but now with blackouts, surely there's a lot that pupils are going through.
Yes, definitely a lot. And what's interesting here is that this is the largest cohort that has registered to write matric exams for 2022. And the reason for this is because the matric pupils that are currently in matric this year, they were in grade 10 and now they are in matric, so they definitely experienced COVID-19, but many probably didn't want to register because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is the largest that the Department of Basic Education has ever had to deal with and had to plan for. But there are major challenges because many, for the first time, they'll be writing exams without masks. Many, for the first time, have gone back to a normal timetable, schooling timetable because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But I think the biggest issue here, Tumelo, is the fact that load shedding is really causing major challenges. Not every school is equipped with a generator. Not every school can afford to constantly fill up the generator. And also, schools are not exempt from the load shedding schedule. There was a big call for hospitals to be exempt. There's also been a big call for schools to be exempt because of the matric exams. We have 14 learners in Gauteng that will have to rewrite computer application technology because there was load shedding. They had written their CAT exams. The load shedding happened, kicked in, the lights went back on and these computers blew up. So these 14 learners now have to rewrite those exams. But the Minister of Basic Education, Angie Motshekga, says that they have to work around the load shedding schedule. She says there's no other way about it. She says luckily the worst is over in terms of needing to use computers for exams. And she's basically said they'll use natural light when there is load shedding, which is quite frankly unacceptable that learners have to subject themselves to that. But let's listen to what the Minister said about all systems go, ready for the exams, but despite the challenges.
This year was also a very challenging year as we saw the return to normalcy following the difficulties that we had experienced battling COVID-19. For the first time since 2020, our learners went back to school without having to wear masks or observe social distancing. From last year, we were prepared for a return to full-time daily timetabling as part of the recovery plan put in place to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. So tomorrow we'll be writing paper 1 English, which is written by the majority of our learners. But you'll also recall that 2 practical papers were written last week, which is computer applications technology and information technology, and both papers went well despite the load shedding uncertainties that were there last week.
So that's the Minister, Angie Motshekga, of course, talking about the state of readiness. But when we look at the class of 2022 alone, I mean, they have to qualify for institutions of higher learning next year. What challenges are they facing as a group?
I think the biggest challenge, again, Tumelo, is load shedding. We got a chance to speak to 2 matric learners who will be writing English tomorrow, and they are saying, thank goodness it's just English because they don't have to really worry about load shedding and not being able to see in the exam centers, which, again, it's really unacceptable that a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old now needs to consider load shedding and when the lights are going to be on or off. But they actually had a very stern message to government to say that they have to literally look at the load shedding schedule, which is very volatile if we're really honest. Sometimes it's stage 4, sometimes it's stage 2. It's very short notice when the load shedding schedule changes. And they are saying that they have to limit their studying time in the evenings because their parents sometimes don't allow them to sit with the candles because they're worried. You know, we've heard many cases where candles can cause fires. So they are saying that government really needs to intervene when it comes to load shedding, especially when they go home, because at school they have support, they have extra classes, they have generators. Again, not every school has generators, but the biggest issue for them is load shedding and not being able to fully study and function at home because of the load shedding schedule. We got a chance to speak to two very bright learners. I must say they're very prepared. I was not this prepared in Matric. Let's listen to what they told us earlier.
In terms of the classes, I don't think that we have been really affected because we have a generator, so we are not affected. But then at home, I think that is the problem, because some matriculants like me, we come from really big families, so the time that we actually study is like the time when our family is like settled, which is at night. So at night is like the best time to study for us. Like it's like the best time. So I think it has impacted us a lot, because some of us are forced to sleep early because we have to switch off the candles. Our parents are fearful because of the dangers behind what has happened. Yeah, the accidents because of the candles and so on. So we are forced to sleep early. We have limited time to study. It's a stress, actually. It's a really big problem, and I wish that it could be fixed. And I wish that the parliament or something could take matriculants into consideration before switching off the lights.
Load shedding, it is a problem, because studying with a candle, it is a huge disturbance, because you know the light that it actually emits, it is less, and usually we teenagers are actually a technologically advanced generation. We use tablets, we use phones, we use laptops, and when there's a blackout, how do you expect us to study? Because most of our past papers are on our phones, and most of our resources are on our phones and our laptops. And when the electricity goes off and you know that your phone is not charged, knowing that I'm writing tomorrow, I'm going to write an exam, it is so stressful. And you know that something can be fixed and the government can do something about it, but because you are just a young child and you cannot do anything, you're just gonna face the consequences, and you just gotta push and just wait for the electricity to come back.
Heidi, were you talking to the future president, deputy president of the Republic?
She actually said, I did want to say, Heidi, that I actually do want to be the next president. I was like, you are so ready.
You are so ready. We're ready to, of course, follow your lead. Well, thank you so much, colleague Heidi Giokos, making sure that we, of course, keep abreast with all things in terms of state of preparedness of matriculants and learners in general, especially with the impact of blackouts in South Africa. But we'll, of course, keep